My name is Christina Frolov, and I'm the president of the National Inbound Tourism Association, and I welcome everybody to our fourth edition of the ANTRIM Incoming and Domestic Travel Forum. Forumul este dedicat în primul rând segmentului de turism receptor și domestic din Moldova și are rolul creării unei platforme de discuții, stabilire de parteneriate, potențial de stabilire de parteneriate, dar și dezvoltare profesională și dezvoltare nemijlocit a industriei turismului receptor și domestic din țara noastră. Cea de-a patra ediție a forumului, care are loc din 4 pe 6 august, va evidenția, în primul rând, necesitatea adoptării unui răspuns în ajustarea strategiei de business și orientarea industriei turismului către noile realități, mai ales din cauza acestui virus care ne-a schimbat peste noapte viața și, de asemenea, să adaptăm activitatea noastră turistică într-un mod cât mai productivă. Ediția aceasta este una extraordinară, dar fiind faptul că trăim cu toți într-un context fără precedent, trăim într-un focar global de pandemie care ne-a afectat pe toți. Criza cauzată de infecția COVID are un impact asupra întregului lanț valoric al industriei turismului din Republica Moldova. În același timp, micro-întreprinderile, precum și întreprinderile mici și mijlocii din segmentul turismului intern și receptor, sunt un grup vulnerabil, constrâns de dificultăți în materie de reglementare și de tip financiar care afectează competitivitatea acestora, chiar și înainte de apariția COVID. În această perioadă suntem cu toții în căutarea unor soluții pentru a ne adapta și a reacționa conform situației. Din acest motiv, ANTRIM organizează acest forum online pentru a aduce în fața dumneavoastră experți internaționali care se vor împărtăși cu experiențe și cunoștințele lor. Încurajăm toți specialiștii din industria turismului să se alăture și să pună întrebări. Vreau să vă atenționez că pot fi puse întrebări pe tot parcursul acestui forum și vă rog mult, de asemenea, pentru cei care ascultă în traducere, să aleagă limba spaniolă ca limbă de traducere, pentru că nu există limba română. Vă încurajez, vă rugăm mult să ne puneți întrebări pe tot parcursul pentru a fi cât mai mobil. Chiar dacă suntem online, oricum să avem senzația că suntem împreună. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all ANTRIM members, because the 50 businesses representing the current and domestic tourism sector are able to offer productive activities. We'd also like to thank our government and development partners, the Ministry of Economy and Infrastructure, with whom we achieved to ease the regulatory regime for tourism businesses and initiate a new tourism policy. We're thankful to our strategic development partners for the past 7 years, the United States Agency for International Development, the USAID, as well as the Swedish government and the British government for their support to both the tourism industry and ANTRIM via the Moldova Competitiveness Project. We're glad to have the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development as partners and hope for our extended collaboration for that. To officially open the fourth edition of the forum, I would like to invite for opening remarks the Minister of Infrastructure of Moldova, Mr. Isac, the USA Mission Director for Moldova, and the Head of Program, Chris Perkins. Vă mulțumim, stimate domnule, pentru susținerea dumneavoastră, pentru încurajări, dar și sperăm la continuarea reformelor inițiate. Dacă ați dori și dumneavoastră să interveniți cu un mesaj de salut.
Stimată doamnă președinte, mult stimate domnule Hochlander, dragi colegi, am deosebită plăcere să vă salut pe toți la cea de-a patra ediție a forumului ANTRIM pentru turism receptor și domestic 2020. Exprim sincere aprecieri pentru organizarea acestui forum cu o agendă de actualitate, axată pe digitalizarea turismului și tendințe macroeconomice. Industria turismului este importantă pentru economia națională, ca aspect al valorii economice pe care o poate genera, dar și aspect social, dat fiind perspectiva creării locurilor de muncă și oportunităților antreprenoriale pentru mii de cetățeni, sporind astfel și dezvoltarea regională durabilă. Turismul receptor și domestic sunt domenii strategice, priorități în politicile Ministerului Economiei și Infrastructurii. Pandemia COVID-19 a tras după sine o criză financiară fără precedent în domeniu. Întreaga industrie mondială a turismului, inclusiv cea din Republica Moldova, a fost grav afectată, înregistrând în țara noastră o diminuare de peste 28% în primul trimestru a acestui an. Astfel, pentru a susține mediul de afaceri din acest sector și pentru a redresa situația privind turismul receptor și intern, guvernul a operat modificări legislative importante cu rolul de a facilita activitatea mediului de afaceri din acest domeniu. Aceste modificări legislative simplifică regimul regulatoriu, eliminând unele bariere, instituie patentele de întreprinzător pentru ghize de turism, casele rurale, organizatorii de experiențe turistice, creează premize pentru dinamizarea tranzacțiilor electronice. De asemenea, o acțiune importantă de suport a fost instituirea de către autorități a moratoriului de 540 de zile, timp în care nu pot fi reziliate contractele turistice încheiate până pe data de 17 martie. Contăm pe faptul că aceste modificări generează impact pozitiv, protejează industria și ajută la redresarea activității companiilor de turism, sporind atractivitatea privind inițierea afacerilor în domeniul turismului, mai ales a celui intern. În același timp, este în proces de aprobare un nou program național de dezvoltare a turismului, Turism 2025, elaborat cu suportul autorităților publice, asociațiilor de resort, dar și partenerilor de dezvoltare, proiectul de competitivitate al USAID, Guvernul Suediei și UK. Vreau astfel să exprim recunoștință și apreciere partenerilor strategici a industriei turismului, proiectul de competitivitate din Moldova, finanțat de USAID, Guvernul Suediei și UK, care acordă suport sectorului privat, dar și autorităților în implementarea reformei regulatorii în turism, elaborarea noii strategii și a brandului de țară Pomul Vieții. Încă fiind director la întreprinderea de stat registru și când am elaborat ultimul pașaport, am ținut ca acest pom vieții să fie prima filă din pașaport. Este foarte important ca turismul autohton să depășească momentul de criză cu cât mai puține sechele. Este la fel de important să schimbăm radical percepția asupra acestei industrii, atât la nivel de autorități, dar și pentru publicul larg, relevând anvergura și implicațiile majore economice, sociale și de imagine pe care acest domeniu le poate genera. La fel cum și în alte industrii, turismul trece continuu pentru un șir de schimbări rapide și radicale, devenind dependent de implementarea tehnologiilor care să eficientizeze activitatea și să ofere o interacțiune facilă și eficientă. Astfel ca digitalizarea poate fi percepută ca un stimulant al dezvoltării acestui sector, în scopul dinamizării implementării tehnologiilor de către mediul de afaceri, Ministerul Economiei și Infrastructurii, de comun cu Consiliul Economic pe lângă prim-ministru, a elaborat foaia de parcurs pentru impulsionarea procesului de digitalizare a economiei naționale și dezvoltarea comerțului electronic, care cu siguranță va facilita interacțiunea la distanță și promovarea serviciilor digitale pentru mediul de afaceri. Un alt instrument financiar disponibil pentru mediul de afaceri este programul de suport dedicat digitalizării companiilor mici și mijlocii oferite de către ODIM. Dragi prieteni, provocările pandemiei, precum și cele tehnologice, nu sunt deloc ușoare. Este în același timp important pentru guvern și implicit pentru Ministerul Economiei și Infrastructurii să acordăm tot suportul acestui sector oamenilor angajați în cadrul întreprinderilor mici și mijlocii, iar acest lucru implică parteneriate, efort, încredere. Exprim convingerea că desfășurarea evenimentului de astăzi își va atinge scopul propus, contribuind la depășirea provocărilor cu care se confruntă industria turismului din țara noastră, în beneficiul dezvoltării economiei Republicii Moldova. Eu vă mulțumesc foarte mult și urez succes tuturor participanților la forum.
Mulțumim mult, domnul ministru, și chiar suntem foarte nerăbdători să fie aprobată noua strategie pentru industria turismului și vom fi alături și la etapele următoare, atâta cât va fi nevoie. Mr. Hochlander, the USAID Mission Director, we believe that thanks to the USAID continued support over the last 7 years to the industry of tourism in Moldova, we achieved so many. We'd be honored to have your introductory remarks to the forum.
Yeah, thank you very much, Minister Velian, President Frolov, Mr. Perkins, partners and industry representatives, Bună ziua. It's my pleasure to be here. This is my first tourism forum, so it's an honor to be alongside the stakeholders representing the foundation, but also the leadership of Moldova's tourism industry. The tourism industry is crucial for emerging economies like Moldova, representing an opportunity to create sustainable jobs really across generations in both urban and rural areas, and really provide an alternative to migration. USAID has been supporting sustainable tourism in Moldova since 2012. The investments include increasing the number of high-quality rural guest houses, strengthening the Moldova national tourism brand, targeted promotions of Moldova as an international tourism destination. Alongside Sweden and UK aid, USAID that's focused on facilitating the business enabling environment for Moldovan tourism industry, spurring economic growth, and allowing small and medium enterprises to emerge and to grow and get better. Obviously, as we already heard from the minister and from you, President Fall, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on the industry. There's been severe decreases in sales and activity, and I think we all realize that the recovery will be slow. But there are options, and to reset growth, the tourism businesses will really have to shift their strategies and focus on local and regional travelers. In this context, domestic tourism becomes a potential vehicle for recovery. And I think we recognize that the businesses will really have to put in some extra work. It's going to take some creativity. It's going to take some cooperation, collaboration, really to bring the businesses as well as the tourists along to what is the new normal that emerges, and really to reassure visitors that it's safe to travel. As the minister mentioned, digitization will be a major recovery factor for tourism. And as part of helping tourism strengthen their online presence, USAID has dedicated a considerable part of our portfolio towards that effect. And as Mr. William just pointed out, we recently talked about this at the Prime Minister's Economic Council, which was, I think, an important event that basically was talking about digitalization across the business spectrum, but this definitely applies to the tourism industries, specifically so. In the last few months, USAID has worked with local tourism sites, upgrading their online presence, improving direct booking services. We've also worked with partners supporting digital marketing campaigns, such as Rediscover Moldova at 360, My Wine, Vinul Meu, to keep interest in Moldova's soft adventure tourism going. I'd like to congratulate ANTRIM for the tremendous work of the last few years in terms of promoting Moldova as a tourism destination and advocating for reform. I think this forum is an excellent proof of ANTRIM, of your leadership being a pillar in terms of support to the industry, especially during difficult times like this. I also want to acknowledge the ministry leadership, Mr. Velian, for adopting some important amendments in the tourism law earlier in June. These will improve the business regulations and ease the regulations for Moldova's micro and small tourism businesses, which is going to be critically important now. We're also proud to have supported the ministry in the development of the new Moldovan tourism industry program and hope that this is something that will be adopted by the government in the coming months. I just want to say also, just sort of on a personal level, I've been in country for almost a year now. I've been incredibly impressed by Moldova, by the cultural resources, the physical resources. It's really exceptional. I think with great resources like this also comes tremendous responsibility. And a lot of the amazing sites, which I seem to hear about and discover new ones every day, I think they can be very fragile. And so it's really, I think, incumbent upon this group in particular to think of ways to be as responsible as possible in terms of preserving these tremendous cultural resources and heritages, encouraging responsible tourism, particularly for new tourists as part of a move towards greater domestic tourism. Through these efforts, I really think that the tourism industry and the stakeholders can continue to rebuild a new path for the sector. This is something that USAID intends to be fully supportive of in the coming months and years. And just lastly, to encourage everyone to adopt sustainable practices and security measures to really relaunch everything that's happening now as safely as possible. So thank you again, everyone, for the opportunity to be here. I wish you all a very successful forum in the coming days. Mult succes și mulțumesc.
Thank you, Mr. Hochlander. I'm sure that we've achieved everything we did because we worked together and we believed in a greater future for the tourism in our country. And we do look very closely to developing sustainable tourism. And I believe Moldova is a country where these things can happen very easy. Just we need to have the desire. Thank you very much again, and we hope we'll be able to continue successful projects that we implemented over the last years, and especially for the sustainable industry development for tourism in Moldova. I would like to invite the head of programs, British Embassy, Chris Perkins, to welcome our participants and speakers to the forum. The British government is supporting tourism industry via the Moldovan Competitiveness Project, and ANTRIM is thankful on behalf of the industry for your assistance and look forward to continue it over the upcoming years. Please, Mr. Perkins.
Bună dimineața, everyone. I'm honoured to be here today amongst colleagues and partners at this key industry event for incoming and domestic tourism in Moldova. Tourism is regarded as one of the most important industries in the world, serving as an economic engine for growth and development. The emerging tourism industry in Moldova is particularly fragile in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, impacting thousands of livelihoods across the country, including vulnerable communities in many rural areas. To help the Moldovan tourism industry recover from the immediate and immense shock of the pandemic, the UK, alongside our partners at USAID and Sweden, support Moldovan tourism businesses to take forward sustainable practices of global travel and rebuild while adopting new trends in digitization and digital marketing. Domestic tourism offers the main chance for driving recovery as more and more local tourists show greater interest in domestic travel options and reconnecting with nature. In this context, the UK supports Moldovan tourism businesses to develop and diversify their soft adventure portfolios, such as cycling, hiking, kayaking, things like that, and relaunch safely, respecting the necessary health and safety measures for both travellers and their own staff. This crisis is an opportunity to rethink tourism for the future in Moldova. Therefore, the industry and the government should continue to reinforce their coordination mechanisms to support businesses, and notably the smallest ones, including their workers. On behalf of the UK, I'd just like to praise everyone's efforts to adjust to this new situation and encourage you all to stay ahead of the digital curve, adopt new global trends, and promote the structural transformation needed to build a stronger, more sustainable, resilient, and prosperous tourism industry in Moldova. Mulțumesc.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Thank you very much. Now we're ready to get to the first session of our forum, and it is dedicated to digitization, of the tourism. Technological progress has undoubtedly improved our lives in all areas. It has changed the way we function, travel, or even talk, but it also has changed the way we work. This technological progress is also connected to the process of digitization. In the current context, with outbreaks of impact on tourism, digitization, e-commerce, and digital marketing and communication becomes a must for the tourist businesses. It was critical before the pandemic, and it is indispensable today in the crisis. But it's very important how we approach digitization in tourism after COVID. What does it have in common with businesses, and how to embed it into our day-by-day businesses and development? We will discuss this subject with today's outstanding speakers, and I'm going to present them. We have here Diana Isac, owner and CEO of Wineries.com from UK. Diana is the founder of Wineries.com, the largest marketplace of wine, spirits, and food experiences globally. Wineries is a free online booking service for wine hotels, wine holidays, and tours, which offer travel guide compilations to over 135 wine regions worldwide, bringing information from local experts on where to stay, where to go, where to eat, and many insider tips. And last but not least, Diana is Moldovan and is a true and genuine patriot. Diana will also moderate this panel and introduce the speakers and manage the Q&A session. Our second guest of this panel is Alessandra Priante, Director for Europe at the World Tourism Organization, UNWTO. Alessandra Priante is what is defined as a natural leader with a very strong academic background, international experience, visionary motivation, focus on objectives, and excellent managerial skills. As a regional director of the Europe Department of UNWTO, she establishes the vision and strategy for the Department for Europe, supporting UNWTO's ability to see its mandate to promote a responsible, sustainable, and universally accessible tourism, leads its implementation, coordinating the activities of the team, and introducing innovative practices. Welcome, Mrs. Priante. Montserrat Peñarroya, Digital Marketing Strategy and Digitization Process Specialist, CEO of Quadrant, Alfa and Program, Director of the Degree in Digital Business and Innovation at the Salle Universitat Ramon Llull. Montserrat Peñarroya is a leading specialist in digitization companies and organizations. Mrs. Peñarroya is also the Program Director of the Degree in Digital Business at the Salle Universitat Ramon Llull in Barcelona. Since 2014, she's being collaborated with the United Nations World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, as course facilitator, helping regions and countries to achieve their digital transformation. Thank you, dear speakers, for agreeing to participate to the forum. And Diana, you have the floor.
First of all, apologies for the interference. I've got a house full of children, older and younger, and for some reason, every single time when I try to get on Zoom, the connection gets disrupted. So if there is any issue or if I drop out, it is sincerely not my fault. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to be here today. Interestingly enough, I'm actually in Moldova. I managed to make it to Chisinau only a few days ago. So I'm in quarantine, but really enjoying being here. And spiritually, I feel a lot closer to the industry here than I did in London. So for today's format, I think that what we will be doing is I will be doing a short presentation at the end. and will give my personal overview of the industry, both from a Moldovan perspective and my experience with the industry so far, but also from a global perspective, primarily discussing the challenges that we have experienced as a business, the shift that we have had to make, and the way that we have had to adapt in this challenging world. We'll be talking a little bit more about how and why digitization has to a certain extent saved us, and what we would like to do going forward in order to be able to support the industry here in Moldova, offer the tools required, and how can we move forward in what we think is going to be a challenging 6 months, and not just 6 months, but a few years. And what we will do now is I will be giving the word to Alessandra Priante, who is the Director of Europe for the World Tourism Organization. Then we will move on to Montserrat Peñarroya, and once both speakers have finished their keynote, I will be finalizing with some concluding remarks. Alessandra, over to you.
Good morning to all from sunny and hot Madrid. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak in this panel. I was already just a few days ago involved in another speech with Moldova. So I really have to congratulate Moldova for being so active in these busy and difficult times in trying to keep the focus very strong on tourism as a sector, on tourism as a tool of growth, on tourism as a tool of development. Now, really what is going on with us is that we, from the beginning of the crisis, and we've been basically following up all the developments, trying to understand, first of all, how big the phenomenon was, because in the beginning we all thought it was a SARS-like phenomenon, so it was going to be located in Asia. Nevertheless, we realized very soon that unfortunately it was all about Europe. And it being all about Europe forced us to have a completely different approach, because Europe is indeed the biggest generator and receiver of tourism. It accounts, and I'm talking region Europe from the UN perspective, so the region that I direct, that has at the moment 42 member states and potentially 11 more geographically. We are recording, have been recording for the past years, a percentage of 51 over to 53% of the amount of international tourist arrivals that have been generated and received in this region. Therefore, the main focus on Europe forced all of us to have a completely different approach, because for the first time probably in history, the old continent, the hardcore of tourism, was hit at the heart. Nobody was expecting it. Governments didn't know how to react. Obviously, health was put in as a main priority. And this had a rolling impact to every other sector, but mainly, of course, into international mobility. National, actually, and international mobility. You just said, Yana, you came back and you're quarantined. So this is a major element into the activities of tourism, which imply obviously going from one place to the other. We recorded and released barometer just a few days ago, an updated barometer monitoring January to May international arrivals, and we recorded May to May a decrease of 98%. January to May, we're running around a little bit more than 50%. So we're talking about $320 million loss and 300 million less arrivals. Please think that this is to be compared with what last year was a continuous increase. So imagine you have a curve that is always going up, and all of a sudden you're going down. And you just want to know if this curve has the shape of a U, therefore you start restarting, or an L. at the moment, what we can see, we are definitely looking at a U that has a very larger, let's say, right side. We are embarking from day one into every form of support we can give to our member states and beyond. We established a Global Tourism Crisis Committee. As I said before, we've been monitoring data basically on a daily, weekly basis, monitoring travel restrictions, issuing a lot of reports that we update regularly. And mostly, we've been doing something which we consider very, very useful. We've been observing and receiving from member states their initiatives, their measures, how they contrasted COVID-19 and the impact on the tourism sector. Obviously, as you can imagine, the tourism sector is just a part of the general measures that were undertaken to support SMEs, to support people, to support airline companies. So we took all of that into consideration. We've been publishing a dashboard, which we consider very important for the use of the member states, that allows member states to understand, to compare, to have information. To conclude, what we've been doing, we've been hitting on knowledge, because we think that if you want to restart tourism, specifically in our sector, which has proven to be very resilient and very elastic, so it bounces down, but then it bounces back quite easily, you have to have information.
Alessandra, sorry to interrupt you just for a second. We're having a slight delay with the translation. If you don't mind just speaking a tiny bit slower so we can catch up a tiny bit, and then
I didn't know I was being translated, Diana, so nobody told me that I was going to be translated, so my apologies. My apologies to the translators who do a very hard job. So,
no problem at all. I'm sure they enjoyed the practice.
What language am I being translated in?
And into Romanian, as far as I'm aware.
Into Romanian, okay. So I will try to speak a little bit slower, and I'm sorry that I burdened the translators. I wish I knew. So going back to what I was saying, we understand that information, and we're trying to communicate the information in this time of crisis, is key. Information allows, and data allow for understanding, allow for planning. Obviously, we also aimed at communicating to all our member states, to all the governments of the world, to all the private sector involved, to all our sister agencies, that tourism is not only a very important sector, but is also a very important tool of growth. I think Moldova is an example of that. And we did succeed somehow in getting tourism up there in the political agenda. We did succeed because even the European Commission had been speaking strongly about it. And we basically aimed at communicating to everybody that if you don't pay attention to tourism, you're actually missing out on a very, very important part of your social, culture, economic, and in general, let's say global life. Because the moment that the lockdown intervened, it was all about us going somewhere. There was never a possibility of us thinking that we'd be impeded to go in another country, in another city, or to reach another destination. So now we all been told that we need to confront a new reality. We don't really see it as a new reality, meaning that we are seeing obviously this very important attention to health measures as a new variable to be considered, to be taken in, to maybe be a part of, for example, the touristic offer, but we don't consider this to be the new reality. We're obviously hoping that we can soon go back to a reality where at least we have freedom of movement, we have freedom to choose if we want to travel or not. And in order to do that, we are strongly communicating and strongly advocating and strongly supporting our member states into utilizing two main variables that we consider the new normal: sustainability and digital transformation, innovation. So the digital element, innovation, and sustainability have to become, let's say, the cement that keeps the bricks together. It has to be done because if there's many things we learned during this pandemic, is that we were not really ready and we took a lot of things for granted. Programming, planning, the use of data, understanding, prioritizing policy, aiming at a very strong public-private relationship was or could be, in some cases, a desire, a something to be wished upon. Now it has to be an action. It has to be a daily action from every level of the public administration, from every level of the public sector, because if there's few things that we learned is that, number one, we need to be together when we're confronting this. And when we're talking about togetherness, we're talking about not only the, let's say, public and private sector within one country, we're also talking about a stronger collaboration among, for example, neighboring countries. And the other thing is that if we're all going towards Agenda 2030, and now even the European Commission has embarked into this journey by implementing and endorsing the SDGs in their policy recommendations, we need to do it for real. Therefore, when we're restarting tourism, we're just not going back to the numbers. We have to go back to a way of doing things. So it's not really that much on when we will restart fully, how quickly do we go back to the numbers to reach a break-even point. Is that how are we going to go back to numbers that allow us to reach a break-even point, taking into consideration all the things that happened, sustainability, innovation. For us at UNWTO, innovation and digital transformation is a core lines of action. We have a very strong strategy for it, also mirroring and picturing the innovation strategy and focus of the United Nations at a global level, because we think that innovation allows not only a greater, a quicker, let's say, achievement of objectives, it allows empowerment. We focus very much on digital skills and how to support member states in covering the digital skills gap. We're partnering with many companies. We're creating a humus, a fertile ground for a very healthy private sector that invests in innovation. We're stimulating the creativity of the small and medium enterprises and the individuals by hosting many challenges, many startup competitions, because we do believe that you need to have that ecosystem that keeps running, keeps moving, to keep not only the hope high, but also the economic environment active, updated. Obviously, this has to be followed by policies that clearly take all these digital elements, all these innovation elements into reality, into action. And all the things that we're doing are just meant at stimulating and supporting, but definitely then the governments and the private sector need to continue the dialogue at a local level. Allow me, Diana, before wrapping up, to praise Moldova in this sense, because definitely a small land that has put in a lot of efforts into pulling the strings and to identifying as well something which we would call a vocation. For example, talking about wine tourism. Now, this is, according to us, a very important example to be drawn for other countries as well. Because when you have the possibility of being focused and drawing strength from an ecosystem around you, you are definitely in the position to recover quickly, to recover in the good way and restart all the activities that were halted due to this pandemic. So we really wish Moldova to continue the path drawn. We are obviously at Moldova's side to make sure that all the information needed, all the elements that we can provide are there. And we really hope that it continues being one of the points of reference for the region to maybe identify some new ideas or initiatives that can be pursued or projects that can be realized. And allow me also to thank USAID and Chemonix for this invitation to participate to such an interesting dialogue that I'm really looking forward to listen as well to all the other speakers especially from the private sector. I think that we just need to keep the ball rolling and never put our attention down, and happy tourism to all of you.
Many thanks, Alessandra. That was great. We will have a few questions, but at the end we'll have a little bit of time to address these. So I will ask you to interfere then. For now, I think what I would like to do is ask Montserrat Peñarroya, who's the program manager of the degree of digital business at La Salle, the Universitat Ramon Llull. I do apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly, and expert in digital transformation. This is extremely interesting, and I think we're all very excited to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Viana. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor for me being here. I'm very happy to contribute to on the development and the recovery of the tourism in Moldova. There is not much that has been said that I can put over it, but I have have prepared a little bit of presentation that I'm going to share with you. Then let me talk about the digital skills that you need to survive in this new normal that we have been talking about during the morning. So first of all, tell you that I'm not just a university professor, I'm also a consultant, and I'm also a researcher. So I have three different legs, to say it in a way. I work a lot with companies and territories. I work a lot with students, university students. And there I teach e-business and I teach digital analytics. That this is to say how to make decisions based on data. So also a very important thing. And also I do research in business model adaptation, which is how do we have to change our business model when the market is being disrupted by someone or by something. Until now it was by someone like, I don't know, like Amazon or like Airbnb, but now there is something that has disrupted all the market, and this something is the COVID-19. So we need to do business model adaptation. So when we talk about the business models, we normally use this framework that you are seeing on your screens, which is called Business Model Canvas, and represents 9 different parts of a business model. And analyzing how the new normal will be, we see that there are a few parts that have changed. We see that the value proposition, the part in the middle, is changing. We have been talking about that during the morning. We have to provide people with new value propositions, such as the sustainability, or such as the health insurance, such as the reassurance that you will be well treated and healthy, and that everything is well, it's 0 kilometer, sustainable, healthy. So things have changed a lot. The customer segments also have changed, but momentarily it will be local customers. But we hope that in a few months, at least after 6 months more or less, the tourism will be again be international. So I haven't marked the customers in yellow, but yes, the customer relationship, because it has changed a lot. Now it's digital. We talk to people, to our customers, through digital tools. So the relation has changed a lot. We have what we call social distancing, and things have changed. So we have to adapt to these changes. And also in channels, the distribution channels have changed. Now it's mandatory to do the distribution of our product and services through internet. So we have to, again, digitalize many of our processes. And also the key activities have changed a lot, because now we have a new key activity that people, it was there, but people were not taking it seriously. It was digital marketing, okay? So everybody is, yes, I do campaigns, I have a website, but nobody was taking it seriously. Now is a key activity, Okay, and there is another key activity which is disinfection. Okay, so we have two new key activities, and of course this affects the key resources, so the human resources that we have, because we need to make them understand those new changes, and we need them to update the skills they have for these new changes. And of course this has a cost, with no increase of the revenue and a higher cost from our part, because of all these new value proposition, new relationship, new channels, and new key activities. There are more things that make us spend the money in things that we were not thinking about before. So this is the new normal, and thinking in this new context, I was analyzing what are the digital skills that you need to survive in this new era. So I will talk only about digital skills, and I will talk only about hard skills. Okay, so skills that can be learned and that you can have a diploma. You know that there are other skills called soft skills that are very important as well, but I will not be talking about them because we have no time. So I will be talking about those digital skills. And I divide them in 3 different parts. The digital marketing skills, so skills related with the marketing part. So if I go back to here, is in this the right part, the marketing one. Then digital business skills, so related to the other part on how we prepare our company. And then the productivity skills that we need, because we live in a digital world, and we need also to know how to use many of the tools that now we have been forced to use, like the one we are using right now, like Zoom. Let's talk. We will talk about all those skills. So let's begin with the digital marketing ones by search engine optimization. So if you work on the tourism industry, you need to know how Google or how the other search engines, depending on the market you are targeting, how they work. So it's not magic, it's science, it's an algorithm, and you need to know how it works, how to be indexed, how can you make that your content is on Google or any other search engine, how to create a link building strategy around that, because part of the algorithm takes in consideration this, how many links do you receive to your website, and how to place your content in a way that people will find it. Okay, so you need to know what are the keywords that people will be searching on Google, the phrases that people will be searching, and you have to position your content for those keywords, okay, and to understand how it works. So this technique is called SEO, for search engine optimization, and it's mandatory, okay? If you have a business, you need to know how search engines work, okay? And if you work in a digital marketing department, you need to know how search engine works. So let's move to the following one, advertising. Advertising is a way of also being on the search engine, but also on social networks, but paying. Okay, when we talk about advertising, in the definition of advertising, it's the money is there. Okay, that's a big difference between search engine optimization and search engine marketing or search engine advertising. You pay for that, and then you are on first, second or third position on Google, but you are marked as ad. Okay, but it works as well. Well, depends of who is your generation, the target of your public objective. Okay, because young people do not tend to click the ads, but people over 40, for example, normally they click the ads as well. So depending who you are targeting, your advertising campaign will be better, or will have a better result or not. So you need to know who are your market segments, and if they are using, or if they will click or not the ads. Okay, and we talk about ads on social networks as well, because again, Facebook and Instagram, for example, they are part of the same company and the same ad network, are very important as well for advertising. But again, depends of your public objective. If you are targeting people of more than 40, probably they will be on Facebook. But if you are targeting people of less than 30, they will not be on Facebook, they will be on Instagram, okay? The truth is that both networks are the same, and you can choose where you want to place your ads. But again, you need to do a very good segmentation and to understand who is your marketing, who is your market. Then you need the creativities as well. The creativity for advertising is important, so you need to know how to create those ads. And then you need to have a landing page. When someone clicks an ad, jumps to a landing page. Okay, so that landing page will be responsible of the conversion of that click into a customer. So you need to know how to create good landing pages. Okay, so there are those skills related to advertising that need to be developed as well. Okay, so how to create the ad, where to create the ad, how to do the copywriting of the ad, the creativity, and the landing page. Okay, let's move to the next one. Being on social networks but without paying. Okay, this is a way of doing a relationship with maintaining relationship with your customers. Again, we have Facebook and Instagram if we work on a business to consumer business. But if we work in a business to business environment, if our customers are companies, then my advice is to work on LinkedIn. Okay, and to have a very good account, to create content for LinkedIn and make relations there so that you can find new customers and you can find new distributors for your products. So don't only think about Facebook and Instagram and Twitter as well, okay? But Twitter nowadays is not even a social network. They don't consider themselves as a social network, okay? They consider themselves as a social media, as newspaper. Okay, so the same way you will send press notes to papers, you have to publish on Twitter as well. But it's no longer a social network in the sense of that is where you have relations with your customers. Okay, if you go to your app store, you will see that Twitter is no longer under the social networks tab. It has evolved to another thing. So regarding social networks, Facebook for more than 40s, Instagram for younger people, but as well, all people is there, okay? But if you look for young people, you will not find them on Facebook. I see that a lot with my children, that they say, oh, Mom, you're still explaining Facebook, but we no longer use Facebook. I say, well, not you, but other people do. And do you know that Instagram is part of Facebook? So it's all the same. So we have to still be using both social networks and use it in a free way as social network, and use it as a platform for advertising as well. Okay, so social networks are still important, and Facebook is still important depending on who are we targeting. Okay, then let's move to direct marketing. Direct marketing is contacting to our customers one-to-one. Okay, and we normally do that through email, through our newsletters. So using MailChimp or Constant Contact or Experian Mail, those are tools to do this direct marketing. But direct marketing done through email is 1.0 marketing. Okay, now we have new tools. We have WhatsApp Business. So in our mobile devices, we have this WhatsApp, which is different than the other WhatsApp. Okay, we have two WhatsApps, the normal WhatsApp and WhatsApp Business. Okay, so first you have to move to WhatsApp Business. And once you have WhatsApp Business, then you can do not many things, depends of the country. But in Europe, we cannot do as many things as you can do in the US or you can do in Mexico, for example, that you can already have automatic artificial intelligence answering for you. In Europe, we only can have one message automatic, so just to thank people to contact us. So we are still beginning, okay? But be aware of that, because during this year and next year, WhatsApp Business will be developing many new features. So we will begin to think how you will do direct marketing through WhatsApp Business. And this is not done through groups, okay? It's done through lists, which is the 3.0 equivalent to an email list. So be aware of that and begin to learn on how it works. Again, WhatsApp is part of the Facebook group. So WhatsApp and Facebook now in Europe can be together, and you can have your catalog of products on WhatsApp and make them accessible to people who is contacting you. Okay, this is done through the catalog on WhatsApp, and then you connect WhatsApp with Facebook, and you can have this new feature. It has only a few months, this feature, so it's normal if you don't know nothing about it. But I just want to make you aware that there is another WhatsApp Business, and that is growing and developing new things, okay? So that will be the 3.0 direct marketing compared with the 1.0 direct marketing, which is a newsletter, okay? Newsletter, the performance of a newsletter is very, very bad nowadays because everybody is using tools like Gmail, that all the newsletters you send, they are moved to another tab. They are not in the main tab. So the opening rate of the newsletters have gone down, and well, the results we are having are not the same as a few years ago. So we need to know about other tools, and this new tool is WhatsApp Business. So let's move to other digital marketing skills. Another one is the content management system. So if we have a website, we need a website that we can manage ourselves. Okay, the time that every time that we needed to change a comma on a website or a price on a website, that we had to send an email to someone with IT knowledge, that has gone away. Okay, nowadays we manage the website, and websites should be created with content management systems, with what we call CMS. Okay, the most popular one are WordPress with WooCommerce if we want to sell online, Drupal, Joomla. If we just want an online shop, then we have PrestaShop, or we have Shopify, or we have even Wix. Okay, we have lots of different content management systems, but you need to know at least one, yours. Okay, choose the content management that you want. What you need to know very well, how it works, how can you improve the search engine optimization of your content, and how can you make it appealing for the users. Of course, that it has to be mobile friendly, not just because the users will use the mobile, but because if not, Google will penalize you. You will not be ranking well on Google. Now the priority is the mobile websites, so make sure that your mobile passes the test of Google. Google has a test. If you go to Google and you search for Google mobile test, you will find a test. Okay, so enter your website in that test and check if you pass it. Okay, there is another test that you need to pass, which is the speed test. Okay, so again, you go to Google and you check for Google website speed test, and you will find a test, put your website there and see if you pass that test. Why is this important? Because again, users will want a quick and speedy websites, but also this is part of the Google algorithm. If your website is slow, you will not rank well on Google. So you will be creating pretty and nice content, but nobody will see it, okay? Because it's not fast enough, and because it's not right for mobile. So it will be a pity. So make sure that you pass both tests, okay? The speed one and the mobile one. So this is regarding digital marketing skills, the 5 more important digital marketing skills that I think that people need in this new normal. Let's move now to the digital business skills. So skills related with how the online business works. First, we need to know how business models work. So when I was talking at the beginning, what is a value proposition? What is a market segment? What is a marketplace? What is your income model, and how can it be changed? What are your key services, or what are your key partners? All this vocabulary cannot be new to you, okay? You have a digital business, or you have to transform your business into digital. So you need to know the vocabulary of a business. Okay, so make sure that you read something about that, or that you make a little course on business, but you need to know at least how business work on the internet, and to understand when people talk about that vocabulary, value proposition, market segments, and this blah, blah, blah that I'm talking about, okay? You don't need to know how to change. Well, it's perfect if you know business model adaptation or business model innovation. I'm sure you have heard those both terms. Business model innovation is much popular, which is how to change your business model to disrupt a market. Okay, the problem is not that now the market has been disrupted. So we are not disrupting the market. The market is being disrupted by something, the COVID. Okay, so now we do business model adaptation. But both concepts are very important. How can you change your business model to adapt your company to the new normal? And when everything will pass, how can you innovate in business model to disrupt the market and place yourself on the top of it and over your competitors? Okay, so the concepts are business model innovation and business model adaptation. Okay, so those are digital business vocabulary that at least you need to know. Okay, let's continue. Let's move to data analysis. Again, we have been talking about digitalization of companies. That the real digitalization of a company is making or taking the decisions upon data. Okay, so using your data, using the data you gather from your users through Google Analytics or through other tools, using the data you have on your social network stats. People normally use Facebook and Instagram, but they don't look at the data they have. Sometimes because they don't have the data, because they have personal accounts instead of professional accounts. And it's free to have a professional account, okay? But if you are a rural home, if you are a hotel, or if you are a tour operator, you need a page on Facebook. The page will have data. But the same will happen in Instagram, okay? There is the normal Instagram for normal people, and there is the Instagram for companies. The big difference between one and the other is that the Instagram for companies has data, okay? So when people ask me, when is the best time of the day to publish? But look at your data, okay? When is the best day to publish? Look at your data. Okay, you have the answer. You just have to look at the data you have. This is the real digitalization of business, okay? Having a way of gathering data, but once you have the data, take the decisions upon that, okay? Don't make the decisions upon your intuition. Intuition is good, okay? But you need data as well. And this is the real digitalization of businesses, okay? So make sure that you use that data. And for that, you need data analysis skills. So you need someone in your company or yourself able to understand data, to understand a trend, to understand a Google Analytics, to understand the data that you have from your booking engine, the data that you have from that marketplace where you are selling your services, okay? All the digital tools have data. So please learn how to use it, okay? Let's move to the last part, to the productivity skills. So first of all, we need to use collaborative tools. So begin to work on Google Drive or OneDrive, so the cloud that you want, okay? But begin to using the cloud storage. So don't have documents on your computers. Have documents up on the cloud and use it with your colleagues. So don't begin to send version 1, version 2, version 3. You know that it's a mess working with versions. After the 4th version, nobody knows which one is the original document and which is the document that is the last version, okay? So forget about that. If you're still working with versions, forget about that, okay? Begin to work on the cloud and begin to have everything on the cloud. You will be able to access it from home, from work, from your computer, from your mobile devices, from everywhere, and work it in a collaborative way, okay? So don't be afraid of that and begin to work, not a little bit, but in depth, okay? So working truly with that kind of tools. But use the drive that you want. If you want the ecosystem, Google ecosystem, Microsoft ecosystem, Amazon ecosystem, Amazon. I don't care. They all are safe, okay? So just important thing is that you use the cloud, that you don't use your own computer, okay? It's much safer on the cloud than in your computer. Then let's move to another one. The virtual meetings is where we are, okay? We all had to learn how to use Zoom or Teams or Google Meets or all the tools that we have. We used to use it a few months ago, but now we use it for real every day because we have to work from home. I don't know how are you in Moldova, but in Barcelona, I'm in Barcelona. We still not in full lockout, but they ask us not to move a lot around. Hopefully we have the beach and we can go to swim a little bit. But those who still work, now I'm on holiday in the month of August. In Spain, we normally close everything. But those who are still working are working from home and using those virtual meetings. So make sure that you know how to use it. For me, it's very sad when I see someone, for example, with a virtual meeting, but still using the voice on the telephone. So use everything on IP, okay? So use Zoom, WebEx, or Collaborate, it doesn't matter, okay? And also on the university, we are preparing the new course and everything will be virtual again. Well, we will have what we call a smart learning. So I will have to go to the university, but in the university, I will have a camera and I will be teaching to presential students. Students will be able to choose if they want to be there or if they want to be at home. So I will have screens with the students that are at home and I will have students there. Okay, and everything I do, it will be sent online. So this is the new normal, and it will be like this at least for a new course, so for a few months. Okay, so think how can you use it and how can you adapt your company to that. So let's move to the not the last one, but prior to the last one, to the CRM. It's very complicated to manage the relations with your customers now that the customers are all online. So make sure that at least you have what is called a CRM, Customer Relationship Management. Okay, it's not that expensive tool or something like that, because you can have an Excel file or you can have a notebook with all the customers. What I want is that you have a list with your customers and that you manage that relation. Okay, that the relationship should be managed and all the marketing should be real customer oriented. Okay, so if you want the marketing customer oriented, you need to take care of the customers and you need to know the customers, and for that you need a customer relationship management tool. Okay, but the tool can, of course, that I will say that has to be digital, but in the 19th century or in the 20th century, many companies already did customer relationship management, and it was done with a book. Okay, so the digital skills are not, it's better if it's digital, but I mean that it's not an excuse. Okay, the important thing is that you are really customer oriented. To have new customers is such difficult that if you have one customer, you have to take care of it. Okay. So let's move to the last one, to the IRP or the PMS, depending. If you work for an hotel, normally we call it a PMS, Property Management Systems. If you work for a company that is not an hotel, we will talk about Enterprise Resource Planning. Those are big software, those are for big companies. Okay, so I make sure that at least the CMS you are using, the other is not for big companies, but if you are a big company, if you are a big hotel, or if you are a big chain of hotels, then you need something better than the CMS, and this is called an IRP or a PMS, depending on the sector. As I told you, in tourism, normally it's called Property Management System, a PMS, but you need to know how they work and you need to know how to implement them on your company. Okay, so this is what related to all the skills. So you must be thinking, well, this woman is crazy. She wants superheroes. And instead of that, I am working on everything. I manage the company, I do the marketing, I do everything. Well, don't worry for that. I normally work a lot with rural tourism and helping to develop rural parts of the countries. So I know that normally you do everything. So yes, I'm asking you that you need to know a little bit of everything and like become the superhero of the digital marketing. But there's no way you can skip that. So learn, and well, I will leave you with this concept, the concept of dynamic learning. So you have to imagine so you have a problem, okay, and then you have to imagine what would be the right solution to that problem. So imagine something and say, oh yes, I would need a tool who does that, or I need this should be managed this way. Then you go to internet and you explore. There is so many things on the internet. You just need to know how the things are called and look for them, for those terms on Google, and begin to find, so open up yourself and begin to find solutions to that problem you have. Then learn how they work and learn. There is so many knowledge on the internet. So I work for a university, okay, but there is so many knowledge on YouTube or on the internet that I don't want to say you don't need a university because you do need a university, but you can learn so much just wandering around on the internet. That be open to that, to learning, okay? And then think about you have learned and that knowledge that you have acquired, put that knowledge in your day by day in your company, okay? So again, you have this is the concept of dynamic learning. You have a problem, imagine the solution, look for solutions, learn how they work, understand very well how they can help you on that company and implement the solution. And that one day and another and another and another and keep learning, okay? So the worst thing that you can do is to say, I'm too old to learn, or no, it has passed, no, I don't want to change. So resistance to change is your worst enemy, okay? And we are in times now that we need to change and we need to adapt. So do not have that kind of resistance, and that resistance came with age, okay? So with that, I have finished. Thank you very, very much. It's mulțumesc, I think, in Romanian. Thank you. And I leave you, my data is here in case you need to contact me, or you can contact me through LinkedIn as well. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Montserrat, thank you very much. Alessandra, thank you very much to you as well. This was extremely insightful. There are a lot of questions for now, but I think that what I would like to do is I would like to just finalize with some concluding remarks, and then we'll have 15 to 20 minutes for questions for both of you, if that's all right. And then I'm sure that the participants will be able to liaise directly in case if they have any questions. I feel like we need 24 hours dedicated to each of you to be able to answer all the questions that the participants have, but unfortunately we don't have the time. I will be touching on a couple of things that Montserrat has mentioned. I found the presentation extremely useful, even though I've been working in the industry for 10 years and have worked with multiple marketing directors. I have gained and learned a lot from it, so thank you very much. I think that when it comes to digitization and online visibility, the world is changing so much on a regular basis. Things were digitization was extremely important in the pre-COVID world. Now with the industry changing as much as it has, I think it is even more important that we come online and that we become aware of all of the challenges and all of the tools that we have to have in place in order for the consumers to get confidence, to feel like they can book with us again, and most importantly, for the consumers to find the relevant experience for them and for us to be able to monetize on these experiences. So I have outlined some of the items here which I think are essential tools for survival in our industry. The first one that I've put on here is real-time availability. The second one is content marketing, then social media. These are two subjects that have been covered quite well by Montserrat, so I won't be speaking extensively on it. The fourth one is aggregators and marketplaces. These are businesses like TripAdvisor, Expedia, Winerist, and finally, easy payment systems. So what is it exactly that we're dealing with now? All the speakers have mentioned that obviously the impact of COVID-19 on our industry, but most importantly on a global scale, has had an extreme impact to the point where we're experiencing a global economic crisis of dimensions that we haven't experienced in a long time. And most importantly, like all the speakers have mentioned, we do not have the tools in place to know how to deal with this particular situation. Obviously, the tourism economy has been hit extremely hard. It has been hit even harder in regions where the industry or the economy is depending a lot on travel. In a country like Moldova, where we rely a lot on wine tourism to be able to sustain ourselves, the impact of COVID-19 has obviously been felt, more importantly. But very early days, I remember when we were speaking with our local partners and there was a sense of panic and a sense of stress. We said that this is an extremely important time for us to do a few things. One, to rethink the product and to think whether the product that we were selling pre-COVID was right and whether that product needs to be repackaged. The second thing that we mentioned was the fact that it is a great time now to think about how to place that product online and how to make it visible so that post-COVID we are more prepared and we're more capable to sell this product to the right consumer. And the third thing that we said is that it is extremely important that we all use this time to invest in coming online and to invest in being available online and be more digitally aware. Because whilst this is a crisis for us, it is also a unique opportunity to utilize this time to facilitate and to engage with the consumers and to make sure that the product that we sell going forward is the right one for them. So what do we do next? Obviously, number one is we have to restore the traveler confidence, and that can be done through online communications. Both Alessandra and Montserrat have touched upon this, but it is extremely important that when the consumer comes on your website, comes on the supplier platform, that the wording is correct and that you encourage your consumer to feel like they're at ease, to feel like they can and want to book with you. The second thing that we can do is to encourage innovation. What does it mean? Contactless, touchless security measures when the consumer is on location. The ease of booking is also really important before they come on location. The aspect of tighter measures and regulations for selling experiences are also extremely important. Why is that? Because the consumer is now looking to us more than ever before to ensure that we can adapt to the new expectations, and most importantly, that we can give them the confidence and we can hold their hand. And final thing here that I've put on the slide is the fact that domestic tourism is the one type of tourism that we are relying on right now. Obviously, domestic tourism is a tough one because it's a great testing platform, but at the same time, it is domestic tourists are, let's say, are our toughest critics. So whilst it is really hard for us to adapt, it is also really important that we use the domestic traveler to learn how to adapt, how to monetize, and how to engage with the international tourists as they start coming in more and more. So to develop this concept of staycations, to develop this concept of offering more experiences to the local tourists, and use this as the foundation to develop international travel only. So obviously, we are aware of the fact that Moldova is a beautiful destination. I'm obviously biased. I think it is one of Europe's most exciting wine travel destinations. And in our experience, whenever international tourists come and visit Moldova, they always remain so impressed by the hospitality, by the amazing attention to detail that is being given to customers, by the level of expertise that our local guides, winemakers have here, and most importantly, they always remain surprised by how high the quality of the services is. However, when it comes to booking and to finding these experiences, now more than ever before, the lack of real-time availability for our local suppliers here in Moldova is becoming a real problem. Why is that? Because obviously consumers are now booking their travel very much at the last minute. They are not planning their holidays as far ahead. And most importantly, they are currently thinking about booking something that is very, very specific, because they have a much shorter period of time that they want to be out of their comfort zone or on holiday. So when they're looking at that particular experience, there are so many boxes that need to be ticked. So why real-time availability? If we're looking at the pre-COVID world, it used to take somewhere between 12 to 16 weeks for someone to book and research a holiday, and very often things such as accommodations and activities and transportation were booked very much ahead of time. Now this has changed, and we're seeing that consumers are booking very much at the last minute. Somebody on the questions panel has actually asked me personally, how are we seeing the bookings uptake, if we are seeing a change in trend. And absolutely we are. Compared to April, we're seeing a substantial increase in bookings volumes, both online and bespoke. It is still very low, and I don't want to lie to you, we are only at 15% of where we were last year in the month of August. But what we are seeing is that consumers are very much waking up at the last minute and are looking at the fact that, okay, borders have opened, I can now travel, great, I would like to book something. The second thing that we're seeing is that near me searches and Google data is more important. Again, Montserrat has touched upon this, but to be able to capture on that last minute booking, to be able to capture on that consumer who is on location, you have to have a very, very good visibility online and in location. What does it mean? It means that you have to work with your online platform, you have to work with the local service suppliers to make sure that your services are visible to the consumer who's searching to do something in your region. The third thing here that I've put is something that we've learned over the last 2 months, is that consumers are actually spending a lot more if they book last minute. This obviously is working to our advantage, but it also is working to our disadvantage, because not only are they spending more, but their expectations are also a lot higher. So what does it mean? It means that if they're paying for something, they expect the standard of that experience to be very high. And final thing is the fact that automation is key. What does it mean? Payment has to be easy. You can't be sending them payment links. You can't be sending them invoices via email. You can't be expecting to pick up the phone and call them 10 times. You can't expect them to pay anything in cash on location. The payment has to be fast, secure, and if they want to book more than one thing, or let's say 2 to 3 things, your website or your platform has to have that basket feature. What does basket feature mean? It means that when you can add more than one experience into the checkout, and you can pay for everything at once without much hassle. Now, why more strategic partners? I've put a very sexy image here, because you know, it's very boring talking about TripAdvisor and Airbnb and trying to get someone's attention. But you know, this picture is very representative as to why we all need these marketplaces. Again, as Montserrat has mentioned, you know, Google advertising is still king, and these companies that have put on here TripAdvisor, Airbnb, Expedia, Get Your Guide, they spend amongst themselves more on Google advertising than all of the suppliers, local suppliers combined. These guys, they really know that in order for them to capture the market, they have to put all of their marketing money into getting that traffic to their page. It does mean that you have to share your commission with these platforms. It does mean that you have to give them some money away. However, it also means that they can sell for you. It means that they can do the marketing for you. It means that they can get better customers for you in the sense that they are more targeted. And most importantly, if you do not yet have the platform, do not have the time or the resource to invest in that platform, these companies can give you that kind of service, and they can give that better user experience. They can give that better customer support. They're available 24/7. You know, they are not small operations. They are large operations that have huge networks that work for them and can also work for you. So even though you're giving 20% of your commission away, or 15 or 10 or 25, you are still in a good position in the sense that they are taking the marketing arm away from you, and they are doing the work for you. But obviously, be very, very engaging with them. Make sure that you react when needed, and only work with them if they are doing a good job for you. So to finalize here and to conclude on some of the remarks that have been made so far, I think that what we need to do now is we need to start thinking about better client communication. And there is no better way to do this than through digitization. Your platform, your Facebook page, your Instagram account, your WhatsApp communication with the client is the best way to communicate and to encourage them to feel safe around their COVID-19 concerns. The questions that they ask are, will I be safe? It's always the first question that they will ask us. Second question is, will I be able to book cancel at the last minute? It's the second question that comes up, and obviously is very important because they want their money to be safe. Will I get my money back without any fees and delays? If you're refunding a customer, you can't keep the fees, you can't be refunding that money over 2 months or 3 months. We all know about the disaster that customers are now having with airline companies that are holding their money and they're not refunding their money. In our industry, we can't afford to do that. The money has to be refunded and has to be returned, primarily because these are unprecedented circumstances. And most importantly, what will happen to me if I get sick? You know, all customers that we speak to, they always look at their insurance and they want to make sure that if something does go wrong, they are taken care of and that the infrastructure will be there to support them. All of this information needs to be available and needs to be displayed on your platform, on your social media channels, and on all the communication that you do via WhatsApp with your client. And you have to answer these questions even before they ask you. So even if they haven't asked you, you have to think about the fact that it's at the back of their mind and they are thinking about it. And you have to be there for them and answer these for them before they ask you. So holding customers' hand is extremely important throughout, and digitization and social media platforms and your online site is the best way to start. As I said before, you know, I feel like the presentation, Montserrat presentation, is a crash course in where we need to get started. So at some point, I feel like we need to, we need to go into more detail and address each and every single one of those, all of those items. But for now, I'm sure that all of these presentations will be available and can be used by the participants at the forum. I will stop sharing my screen right now. And what I would like to do is I would like to address some questions to the speakers. And if there are any more questions, I will allow the team from ANTRIM to send them over to me. So the first question that I have is actually for Alessandra, if I may. You know, one of the questions that came up in various forums, Alessandra, is around the standards that we can expect in hospitality, in tourism at the moment? And what are the major shifts that we are expected to see over the next 12 to 24 months? I know that this is a very vague question, but I feel like the world is our oyster when it comes to answering it. So I was wondering if you have any insight here.
Well, thank you very much, my dear. I'm afraid I'm not able to answer the question on the standards, because there is no standards, if you ask me, that are to be applied globally. I mean, of course there are, and there are health standards that were given by the WHO, basically the World Health Organization. But when it comes to standards, obviously each country has implemented those indications into their system, and they tried probably to reach the best solution possible, given the dialogue that they have with their own hotel industry. So I don't think this is really the problem at the end of the day, Diana. The point is not what standards hotels are using, or restaurants, or any type of outlet which requires a certain amount of people being present at the same time. What we are doing is we are trying to, besides monitoring, as I said, and making sure that there's a lot of confrontation between ideas, at UNWTO, we're encouraging and we're praising actually the efforts that each and every, both member state and private sector, have been undertaking. Not many hotels are actually in the position to implement certain health standards, including the differences in the cleaning methods, for example. Most of the times you cannot do any more a weekend in a hotel with having your room done every day. So they need to, you go into the room, they wait for you to go, and then they come clean it. That's just an example of the practices that have been implemented. But what I'm seeing on a general basis is that the private sector, the hospitality sector, which includes, as I said, not only hotels, includes spas, includes restaurants, includes anything that has to do with hospitality, organized hospitality, they've been implementing a lot of measures, and they've been undertaking a lot of efforts to make sure that they could restart welcoming guests. And the other question, which is a bit more vague, as you said, yes, it's, I think, one of the type of questions that I guess I call crystal ball questions, but it's kind of normal. We're all asking ourselves what's going to happen next. What we try to do at UNWTO, and I believe in many other parts of the sector, and also the representatives of the industry that we have here, I'm sure will agree with me. We try to stay positive. We try to say that it's not, as I said before, it's not how quickly, it's how you actually restart and you are able to resume activities. This is what really, really matters. Because look what's happening in Spain. I mean, would you have thought that right in the middle of the summer, we are going to increase numbers and we have thousands of new cases every single day, and we're all wearing masks even when we go out, or it's not a very comfortable situation, but it's definitely a situation that we need to confront, because we want to contain the spreading of the virus. But somehow, again, this is going to bring the sector to another small halt. Now, the real issue here is not how soon we will recover, is that how well will the companies confront this months of crisis? Because if you ask me, the biggest fear that I have for the tourism sector is the survivor rate of the private companies. Because I think Montserrat would agree with me, tourism sector is made almost worldwide of around 80% of small, medium, and micro enterprises. All professions that were developed during the last few years, like there are things that just came out, specialized guides or specialized tourism. Tourism had the smallest niches available. And now we're back to basics. We're back to SNS, which is sea and sun. Therefore, the only places where something is happening is either the mountains or the sea. But what are these people doing? How will they be able to survive? how long will they have to wait? You do understand that when you run a company, 6 months without any business could imply you're giving up your company. I think, Montserrat, please help me with the very, there's a very nice, well, nice, not nice in the meaning, but nice as a sounding Spanish word, which is for when you're selling your activity. You know, it's called jubilación, right? So I'm gonna be waiting to see the rate of jubilación. This is what we need to look at. This is where we are actually keeping everything, you know, the high alert. Be careful, because you might not die of COVID, but you might die of starvation and economic crisis. And this is something that we all need to be ready to confront with the right tools.
Absolutely. I think that that is a very fair point. And we at WineRest have actually already seen a decline in our local partners who were positioned online before COVID. And now we're seeing that they have taken their products offline and they are no longer working and no longer offering services. I think that if I can take it to Moldova, back to Moldova, where, as it has been mentioned at the beginning, the level of support is a lot more limited, where furlough schemes are not in place, and where companies cannot rely on the exact same incentive that, let's say, our other companies in Spain, in the UK, in Italy, and France. In France, for example, we have suppliers that have gone on furlough for 6 to 8 months. They are not working, they are not doing anything. In Moldova, obviously, we do not have that option. So in going back to one question for you, Montserrat, and to the question around digitization, is this a good time to focus on building our online presence? Is this a good time to think about how can we position the product? Is this a time to prepare for the attack that is going to come next, and kind of say, we will minimize everything. We will go back to the basics. We do not need 20 employees. We do not need one person to do our Instagram posting. We do not need one person dedicated to doing our email marketing. This is the time to learn what digitization means for us. And if you are to look at the small and medium suppliers that are playing a substantial role in Moldova, where would you say that is the best point to start? Because the guide that you have put together is extremely exciting and it's a great tool, but where do we get started? And how much time do we need to give ourselves to get to a good point, to a point where we can feel satisfied?
Okay, well, complicated, but first, there are two things that we need to improve. One is our business, and another one is how to make the business model more resilient. Okay, so for the business we have, if we can still give the service, then it's time. First, I would begin with a website. Okay, so the strategy is called the hub and spoke. The hub is the website, and the spokes are the social networks. So I would begin with a website, and then with the social networks, driving traffic to the website. Okay, because where we have the motor engine and the booking engine and everything is on the website, and where we have the subscription and we can gather more data. So driving traffic to the website. So I would begin with a good website, and now is the moment, as we don't have so many work, or we are on lockdown, is the time when to improve the website. But there is another thing that we should do. Probably it will be a second wave of COVID. Okay, the fear, at least in Spain, is that in October, November, December, we will have a second wave. So businesses will be closed again. So you need to prepare yourself for another lockdown and for not having businesses physically. So try to think, what can you do online? So making your business model more resilient. So if you have an hotel, this is very complicated. But for example, if you are a guide, try to see what can you sell online, what service can you give online that at least will allow you to have a little bit of income. Okay, so If we want the survival of the business, we need business models more resilient. And a business model only based on physical premises, it will be very complicated to have this resilience if the second wave comes. Okay, so let's prepare a little bit for that. If there is no way we can do anything online, then there is no way. Okay, we have to close, and we close the hotel, and that's it. But if try to analyze if you could find a way to still have income, even if you have to close the physical premises. Okay, this is called business model adaptation for resilience, and try to do it. So it's complicated, but try to think how could you do it. And if not, if you will be open, then I would begin with a website, and then the social networks. And on the website, search engine optimization and a little bit of advertising. And in advertising, there is a concept very interesting, which is a positive system. So you need to check if you invest 3,000 euros in advertising, how many you get back. If you get back 13,000 or 30,000, if you put 3,000 and you get back 30,000, then where is the problem? There is no problem. You have a positive system. Okay, so try to find those positive systems with certain products, with certain market segments. Okay, this is again will give you resilience. So search engine optimization, advertising, a good website, and being on social networks to have to maintain the relationship with your customers and to find new customers. That will be the basics.
Thank you, Montserrat. So I guess a couple of conclusions is that it's going to get worse before it gets better. Second thing is that this is a great time to strengthen our brand and to think about branding. And third thing, to start working on those channels of digitization based on our needs and our current capabilities, because obviously each and every single one of us has different capabilities. Alessandra, I have one more question for you, if I may. Again, it's very generic, but they just keep on coming at you, I think, because you can face the challenge and you're the only one who can answer them. So the next question is, what are the practices or campaigns that European countries are undertaking to be able to face the post-COVID era?
Can I ask you, Diana, what kind of campaigns are we talking about here?
I would assume that these are, again, it's a general question. I do not know who it's coming from, but I assume that it's about the practices that are being put in place by companies, by states, in order to support and to sustain businesses in our industry.
Well, I'm not really sure about that, because campaigns normally refers to the promotional campaigns. And I can guarantee you that many countries at the moment, especially in the Southern Mediterranean, have tried destinations, let's say, have tried communicating visually and having videos to say, we are waiting for you. In the beginning, the whole of the campaigns was how we let you know that we're still alive. We're going to make you dream. We're going to let you get away. And definitely also to build up on Montserrat's answer to the question, now is the online time. Now, because this is the time when you have to be ready. It goes back to also my intervention. Being ready is the main thing. So this is one aspect of it. And then when we started going towards the possibility of opening borders, obviously, every national tourism board was on the internet with videos communicating, saying we're safe, we're good, please come, we're waiting for you. Media campaigns. I've heard of the fam trips with journalists. So many things happen. If you are referring to campaigns in terms of support measures, as I said before, we were monitoring that from the very first moment. And from the very first moment, we put up a dashboard, which allows you to go, it's on our website, unwto.org, check for the dashboard on the measures that all the member states have undertaken. What you can do, definitely, you pick your region, you pick your country, and you want to know what they've done to support the sector. We've monitored both the, let's say, general health interventions, the occupation support. So in many cases, countries put the support that has different meanings, of course, in different countries, to allow people not to lose their job. Some countries even undertook free training, the example of Portugal, where they kept on talking to the companies to make sure that they were updated and they were not losing their attention. Another type of measures that was undertaken was directly to consumers. There are countries that have given money in the form of a bonus, of a voucher, to the single consumers, the tourists, the potential tourists, especially at a national level, to incentivize their possibility of going on vacation. So there's different type of measures we've observed. The European Commission, as I said before, has also taken a stand to understand how important this was, and therefore introduced some exceptions to the rules. For example, when you support a big company like TUI in the case of Germany, or a national airline company, you cannot, by European laws, support it unless you are applying to an exception. So what the European Union and Commission have done is they've allowed each and every member state of the EU to apply direct aid without falling into the basically the breaking the rule of competition. So all these measures were put in place to support the private sector, to make sure that the industry was somehow surviving. Now, have they been good or not? It's not up to us to evaluate. I don't think it's even up to the people to evaluate, because you will always have people saying, I complained because I got little money, and other people saying, but I've done my best. What the point is here, that when there's no preparedness, so you're not expected. The governments have done their best. Some of them were already prepared because maybe they were used to facing big events or big disastrous events. Some others were less prepared, but I'm sure they've all done the best they could. Definitely, the ones that are proving to be a little bit more resilient than the others are the ones that are more used to programming, to the use of data. Data, data, data. You need numbers all the time, not just to evaluate how bad you've done, but also to estimate, to program, to target. For example, in your case, Diana, you need to keep focused. You need to have your targets more than ever. And more than ever, you need to understand that you cannot just throw a dart in the void. Like Machiavelli said, the further and the higher you could reach, you will get, further, definitely. But you need to be very focused. Among all your clients, who are the ones that are really willing to pay, still interested? Who are the new clients you could get in these times? Because maybe they're more available, they're easier to reach. This is the moment where the planning part is absolutely central.
Absolutely. And I think, first of all, thank you very much, Alessandra, and thank you, Montserrat. That was really insightful. I would personally love to take you both for a socially distanced 6-7 hour coffee and learn as much about the next, the future of our industry over the next few years. I think to kind of go from what Alessandra was saying with some concluding remarks, and to answer some of the questions that have come in. Unfortunately, we don't have time for any more questions, but I'm sure that the organizers can address them directly to the panelists, and these can be answered by email perhaps, or WhatsApp. But to conclude, I think that first of all, it is most likely going to get a lot worse, so we have to be prepared for it. Second thing, and it is a tragedy, but at the same time, I would say that we in the tourism industry are very good at making opportunities out of tragedies, and adapting is essential. And there has not been a time that is more challenging for us, I think, than now. But I think that the second thing to take into consideration is the fact that this is the perfect time for us to prepare. for when the world is going to gain some level of normality and some level of influx of tourism that is going to be normal. And because obviously what we're experiencing right now is not very ordinary, and we do not know, as we said, we do not have the ability to predict what's going to happen next. So be prepared for worse times to come. Make sure that you utilize the tools that are available to you to make sure that your product is ready when things return to some sort of normality, whatever that normality is going to be, nobody knows. And most importantly, I really loved one thing that Alessandra said during the presentation, which is this concept of togetherness. I think that if we are to think about the idea of togetherness, both on a local level and on a global scale, it has never been more important to work in concert than it is right now. So if you can work with your local neighbors, with your local suppliers to bring things together, to make sure that you can build products together to attract more tourists, then definitely do so. If you can rely on international tools and international platforms like TripAdvisor and Expedia to sell your product and to engage with consumers, then definitely do that. But most importantly, if you can utilize your local customer, your domestic customer, to test things, to engage with them, to have that dialogue, and to prepare for the next inflow or influx of international consumers, then you should definitely do that. Because your local consumers are your worst and best judges, and they're your worst and best customers in many ways. So this is a great time to experiment, prepare, and engage. I hope this has been really helpful and useful to everyone. It has been for me. Thank you very much to everyone who has participated. Thank you to the attendees for the questions. We are going to wrap it up at 12 on the dot. Final thing is I would like to tell everyone that the second session is tomorrow at 4 p.m. local time. As far as I'm aware, a link will be sent and invitations will be sent by ANTRIM. Presentations will be made available for everyone. And I believe that our contact details will also be made available if we give permission, and questions can be sent directly if needed. Thank you very much once again, and I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead.